Before the town was named, before the first cobbled road was laid, there was a house buried in mist, built on secrets, and passed down through blood. The Veloria family didn't build Château Orlaith. They inherited it along with everything inside. And now, one of them has vanished. Was it madness, murder, or something older, something waiting beneath the floorboards? Welcome to Veloria Hollow, where the dead don't rest, and neither do the living. Before the whispers, before the magic and the madness, there was the house. There was Château Orlaith and the family born from its bones. Château Orlaith, meaning Castle of the Golden Princess. It was a house that birthed a bloodline. Built in the late 1400s by the House of Énoir, Château Orlaith was never meant to be beautiful. It was meant to be immortal. A fortress turned estate, a place of power and secrets, and at its heart, a family sworn to protect something no one speaks of anymore. Centuries passed, but the bloodline never truly died. It changed names, it fled wars, it married strategically, buried its enemies in marble crypts, and reinvented itself. By the time Caspian Veloria I came into power, the once distant House Énoir was known by another name, Veloria. And when Caspian Veloria I stepped into the title, it wasn't true acquisition, it was true inheritance. The Hollow didn't understand that. They thought him an enigma, a wealthy outsider. But the truth was far older and far more dangerous. Caspian wasn't claiming the chateau, he was returning to it. Caspian I married Isadora Thorne about 20 years ago. She was brilliant, beautiful, dangerous, the sort of woman who made people lower their voices when speaking her name, even in praise. This wasn't because she was a bad person, but because she had this aura about her which commanded deep respect, but at the same time had an unnerving vibe. She was the kind of woman one would not have been able to speak of lightly. She became the Countess Veloria, and the two of them reawakened Château Orlaith, not with joy, but with presence, with power, with intent. Together, they held gatherings that were never quite what they seemed, dinners where guests left changed, and events no one ever fully remembered. The Countess once said, "We are not hosts, we are echoes with names." Château Orlaith, does not raise children gently. It does not play host to carefree summers or echo with the bright laughter of youth. It watches, it waits, and as the years pass, it molds its young inhabitants like clay, gently at first, then with increasing pressure, until only those shaped by shadow remain. There are three Veloria children now, each scarred by the silence their father left behind. Three branches of the same ancient tree, growing in different directions, twisting toward light or curling deeper into the dark. The firstborn was Caspian II. To be born a Veloria is to be born into myth, into expectation, into a name that drips with legacy and bloodline and whispers in the walls. But Caspian Veloria II wants none of it. Heir to Château Orlaith, the eldest son of the vanished count, Caspian grew up in a home where every object had a backstory, every hallway a ghost tale, and every family dinner felt like a seance in disguise. But from the moment he could think for himself, Caspian chose not to believe. At least that's what he says. Where Lavinia studies the occult, and Felix always seems like he's on a different plane, Caspian scoffs at their parlor tricks. He rolls his eyes at creaking floorboards. He mocks the family's traditions. He dismisses the Hollow's fascination with his father's disappearance as backwater hysteria and towny gossip. He is, to put it plainly, the black sheep in a velvet coat, as sharp as he is bitter, as lonely as he is proud. But scratch the surface and you'll find a boy who does believe. He just wishes he didn't. He remembers Caspian the First. He remembers the tension before he vanished. He remembers the look in his mother's eyes when she thought no one was watching her stare out the window toward the woods. He remembers the letter he found in his father's desk drawer, the one that ended with the words, "If I don't return, protect the children. Do not trust the house." Caspian never told anyone about the letter. He burned it the same night he found it. But sometimes he dreams of that sentence, whispered by voices that sound just like his father's, only off. He acts out to distract himself. Parties thrown in rooms that haven't seen joy in decades. Sharp-tongued arguments with Isadora, half of them fueled by grief he doesn't know how to name. And when the storm rages and the lights flicker and the chateau breathes, Caspian mutters to himself, "It's just the wind. It's always just the wind, even when it isn't." Lavinia is the second born. Where others see dust and decay, Lavinia Veloria sees a puzzle begging to be solved. She has always asked more questions than the world was ready to answer. The middle child of the Veloria heirs, the middle child of the Veloria heirs, Lavinia has always walked the corridors of Château Orlaith with a kind of reverent curiosity, like the house is a living manuscript, and she is its most dedicated scholar. From a young age, she was drawn to the velvet bound books no one else touched. She learned to read the family's old diaries before she memorized multiplication tables. When other children played outside, Lavinia was tracing constellations from the observatory's broken telescope. But she isn't strange, not in the way the world often calls girls like her. She's not haunted either. She's not whispering to ghosts in the garden, but she is looking for something. She's attuned to legacy, to mystery, to the beautiful, unspoken language of old things. And magic to her isn't fantasy, it's memory and culture. It's in the entire bloodline. Mothers, fathers, sons, daughters. It's in their eyes, their dreams, their uncanny ability to survive things no one else should. She's not a witch, not yet, but she wants to be. She studies, she questions, she digs through the chateau's ancient records and forgotten wings like a historian with a secret to prove. Unlike her brother Caspian, who scoffs at family tradition, or Felix, who seems to know without needing to ask, Lavinia searches. To her, magic is not rebellion, it's not escape, it's continuity, a thread connecting her to the long forgotten Velorias who once stood where she stands now. Those who understood the land, the stars, the subtle currents running beneath the floorboards of Château Orlaith. She researches the rituals of her ancestors with respect, cross-referencing their journals with academic texts and modern interpretations. She studies the rituals not just to imitate them, but to translate them, to modernize what has been forgotten. She believes the Velorias were never simply aristocrats or eccentrics. They were guardians of something ancient, something real, something waiting to be remembered. Lavinia is the only one who treats the family's legacy like a living, breathing subject. Not myth, not curse, not burden, but truth. And if that truth comes with danger, she doesn't flinch. She wants to know everything about the house, about her father, about the strange symbols carved into the foundation stones that aren't in any history books. She's the kind of girl who will walk into the dark on purpose, but with a lantern and a question on her lips. Even when she's afraid, especially when she's afraid, Lavinia walks forward. Because curiosity isn't weakness, it's how you survive a place like Château Orlaith. Felix is the youngest of the three. Felix was born into grief. His father vanished shortly after his birth, and though he never met the man, he wears the weight of the absence like a second skin. The other two children remember what came before. Felix only knows what came after. He speaks little, not because he can't, but because he's too busy listening. He draws, constantly, pages and pages of empty halls, windows that don't exist, rooms no one can find, and people, figures with blurred faces and antique clothing, who stand in the background, half watching. Sometimes he draws them before they arrive. The house likes Felix. That's what Isadora says when the lights flicker gently as he passes, or the doors close behind him with soft clicks instead of slams. The staff, avoid him when they can. One maid claimed she heard him humming a lullaby from the 18th century while asleep. Another swears she saw him walking at 3 o'clock in the morning, eyes open, feet bare, whispering to someone she couldn't see. Felix never explains himself, but when his mother cries alone in the garden, he brings her tea without asking. When Caspian rages in the study, Felix leaves a fresh page and pencil by the door. And when Lavinia needs someone to hold a candle in the dark, Felix is already there. Some say the youngest Veloria sees too much. Others say he sees what's coming. They grew up in a castle that shifted around them, where music sometimes played without source or mercy, where multiple servants vanished out of nowhere. To be a Veloria child was to inherit not just wealth, but a curse masquerading as heritage. And then one night, Caspian the First was gone. No scream, no sign of struggle, no open doors, no bloodstains anywhere. Just a velvet chair, still warm, a glass of wine untouched, a single ring placed neatly on a book that no one could read. He didn't die. He vanished. Officially, presumed dead. Locally, feared missing. Possibly still inside. The staff whispered. The house took him back. Others claimed he walked into a mirror or stepped into a sealed room he never should have opened. But no body was found. No farewell was written. Only silence and the slow unraveling of the family he left behind. Caspian's disappearance was too sudden, too unexplainable, too much like a bad dream. For years, Isadora Veloria could not move on. She mourned as only a woman who has lost her soul can. She mourned in silence, behind heavy curtains and foggy windows. She mourned in silence, behind heavy curtains and foggy windows. She mourned in the cool, cold halls of Château Orlaith, a place that once rang with life, now empty and hollow. Her love, her Caspian, was gone. The man who had once been her anchor, her purpose. For months, she wore only black, draped herself in grief, and wandered through the halls like a ghost in mourning. But her children needed her. They needed her to be more than the woman in the corner, cloaked in shadow and sorrow. Her estate and her people also needed her. And eventually, she began to piece herself back together, not for her own sake, but for theirs, especially for Felix, who was still a baby at the time. For a while, Isadora wore the mask of a woman who could handle anything. She smiled at guests, played the part of the perfect hostess. Slowly, Isadora started to live again. She began with small things, opening the windows, pouring a glass of wine for herself at dinner, smiling just a little. Her mourning would never end. It couldn't. But as the years wore on, she found the strength to face the day even as a deep inner sadness weighed on her heart. She wanted to get herself out of the darkness that obscured her life for so long, but she always struggled to. She always felt guilty, like she wasn't allowed to move on. Château Orlaith was never theirs to tame, even as the Velorias ruled. The house remembered. Its foundations were laid with old blood. Its walls held the memories of rituals abandoned and secrets left behind. Its hallways whispered things in voices that sounded like family. And somewhere late at night, when the fire flickered just so, they still hear Caspian's footsteps. In the hollow, nothing truly dies. Not houses, not bloodlines, not husbands, only stories. And the Veloria's story is just getting strange.